filling in today for Brian Fisher, and it is an honor to be with you. We are going to get to your phone calls right after this segment. 888-589-8840. Rev up those phone lines. That's 888-589-8840. We'll discuss my next guest. We will also discuss the things I've talked about up until now, retail therapy. We're going to talk a little bit about the debt ceiling as well. And I want to dig into the Olympics and some things going on in Russia as well as these topics. So we're going to get to all of that coming up. But first, you should know that the U.S. Congress has, of course, approved a debt limit hike after a bit of Senate drama, which I would say is more like a dog and pony show. If you really want to know, that is according to, not the dog and pony show part, according to Reuters. I have friends with the last name, same spelling, they pronounce it Ryder, which always confuses me. According to Reuters. And it was the hero again, Ted Cruz, who they love to hate. The establishment loves to hate. The establishment on the GOP and the establishment on the other side love to hate Ted Cruz because he's the one who speaks up so often and says what you and I are thinking. I can't believe we're raising the debt ceiling again. This one goes through, I believe, March of next year. Just spend. No restraint whatsoever. Speaking of retail therapy. Well, anyway, my guest today says there needs to be a stop put to that immediately. Senator Chris McDaniel, he's a Mississippi state senator looking to become a U.S. senator. He's taking on entrenched incumbent Republican Senator Thad Cochran, who has spent 31 years in Washington, D.C. And certainly my guess is that senators like Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, and Rand Paul would be looking to have another ally in the Senate. Welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher, Senator Chris McDaniel. Good to have you.
Hi, Gina. Thanks for having me. I'm a big fan.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. Likewise. Now, tell us, just can you paint a picture for us? What difference would one more senator fighting along the ranks of Ted Cruz, Mike Lee, Rand Paul, and the likes, what difference would it make? Because I think as we kind of watch politics go down the tank here sometimes, we wonder what difference it would make to have just one more senator. I know because I'm the wife of a former senator, as you know, but what difference would it make in your mind?
It makes all the difference in the world. Senators that are able to stand with courage and not simply legislate, but also communicate the conservative message, the message of prosperity that made this country so great. It can change minds. And when we change minds and motivate the people, at that point, anything is possible. And Senator Cruz showed us that just a few weeks ago when he stood there on the floor with Mike Lee and others, and they fought that good fight. The entire country watched. We were inspired by their courage, inspired by their conviction. And I sometimes believe that's all the people really need to start a mass movement. So naturally, the more help that those men have up there and those women have up there, the better off this country is going to be in the long run.
And if folks are, of course, going to ask, well, if you are a bona fide conservative out there taking on the conservative issues, it's going to be hard to win. Talk to us about what you believe is the reason why you can win.
Well, the people understand that Senator Cochran's been there for 41 years. And 41 years is an awfully long time. And it's important to point out that after 41 years, Congress needs refreshing. And it needs refreshing from time to time, if for no other reason than to make sure that they're being accountable and responsive to the will of the people. Mm-hmm. And no matter where we are in the state, whether it's all the way up in Tupelo or all the way down in Biloxi, we're hearing the same messages. People tell us that Senator Cochran is spending too much, that his record has been far too liberal. He's voted on some very questionable things, even Medicaid funding for abortion, for goodness sakes. And that's something that no senator of Mississippi should ever do. So wherever we go, we hear the stories, and the people are ready for change. They're frustrated. They understand that a refreshment, so to speak, is needed in Congress, and we go to make that happen. So we're really excited about it.
And what would be your pet issues? You can't solve all the problems of the world as one senator, but what would you do? What would your priorities be? Give us your top three.
Well, there's a handful, obviously. First and foremost, we've got to talk about the spending. We're $17.2 trillion in debt with unfunded liabilities closer to $200 trillion. Our federal government borrows 46 cents out of every dollar it spends. And Senator Cochran simply seems unable to be willing to cut spending where we must cut spending to survive our fiscal crisis. Secondly, and closely related, we must restore to the original Constitution. That document matters. That federal government is a government of limited authority, and we have to make it so again. Third, and again, closely related, we have to get rid of Obamacare once and for all. Senator Cochran voted to fund Obamacare. He's voted to fund it twice. We should not be funding Obamacare. We should not be starting to fix Obamacare. We need to repeal Obamacare, get it off the books, and return the powers to the people and the states respectively. And lastly, this is still a country of traditional moral values. Those values matter. We have to defend and fight for those values because good people make good citizens. And good citizens don't need a large, omnipotent government to take care of them. So all closely related, but it's a social issue fight and a fiscal issue fight.
And so when you look at what has happened this week with the debt ceiling, what are your thoughts on that, and what would you be doing if you were there?
The debt ceiling is something, obviously, it's extraordinarily important for us because we are literally spending our great-grandchildren's money right now.
Yeah.
Since 1990, just since 1990, Senator Cochran has voted to increase the debt ceiling 14 times for a total of well over $7.3 trillion. Now, that's not counting the votes he took prior to 1990. That is a moral crisis. When you're talking about spending our great-grandchildren's money, that is a moral crisis. So here's the answer. It's time for conservatives to fight for a change, not to surrender, not to cave in, but find their courage, go up there, draw a line in the sand, and make sure that this president begins to give us concessions on spending issues. And so far, the Republicans have not shown the backbone to fight the way we should be fighting. Mm-hmm. That's another reason we're running. We are going to fight with backbone. We're going to fight with resolve and fight with courage to make sure we save this government.
The site is McDaniel2014.com and also on Twitter at CM4US Senate, at CM4US Senate. Senator, tell us, what difference can one person out there make? I think a lot of people are feeling a little bit just tired, honestly, after the whole Obama debacle, being reelected, of course. I think a lot of people probably fought hard against those values that he represents or doesn't, however you want to put that. And maybe they feel like they just don't want to involve themselves in something. But what difference can one person make?
All the difference in the world. Every great movement this country's experienced started with one person and an idea. And that person goes and they influence others, they influence their families, and they influence their friends. The next thing you know, you've got a movement. I think Mississippi understands, the people do, that this country's in serious, serious shape. In other words, we're right on the edge of a cliff. And we have to turn around right now. We don't have 6 more years. We don't have even 2 more years. We've got to get out there and fight to make a difference. And if you see that type of energy, particularly what we've been seeing across the state, it's easy to understand that we are about to make history here, that the people really do want to change, that they understand that change is necessary. And I really believe it's going to happen. I truly do. And I tell you, it's inspirational to see so many people involved in fighting for this movement. I really believe that God has a hand in it, and it's inspirational.
Building on that, because I know those campaigns can be, they are, first of all, exhausting, and but secondly, it can be really exhilarating. And there's always one special moment where someone just says something or does something, and it reminds you why you are dedicating this much of your life to a proposition where you will either win or could lose everything that you've been fighting for the entire campaign. Tell us about that moment for you. What is the most special moment so far in this campaign for you?
Oh, goodness, there have been so many. I
know it's hard.
Me, yeah, it's so incredible. And I think for me to hear, it's a little different for me because we hear the people speak about these issues, and every time we're in a group and someone says something special or inspirational, I remember it. I bank it in my memory. But for me, I think it was my 7-year-old. I came in the other night. I'd been gone for several days, and he said, "Where have you been?" And I said, "Son, I've been fighting." He said, "What are you fighting for?" And I said, "Well, I'm fighting for you."
Oh.
And he said, "Thank you." And, he doesn't fully understand everything yet, but he misses his daddy, and I miss him. And to come in and hear him just kind of understand a bit that maybe his daddy's out there trying to make a difference, that was special to me. And I hope one day it rubs off on him, and I pray that he likewise will fight for his country and fight for what he believes, even though sometimes it can hurt. We have to stand and be good people of principle.
The website, again, McDaniel2014.com, and Twitter at CM4US Senate. And folks out there can make their own decisions by looking at that because, of course, on this show, we don't make any particular endorsements. But I do want to say this. There are people who have endorsed you. Tell us about that.
Oh, man, that's been incredible. Just about every conservative group imaginable has. We've had 9 state senators that have endorsed, including the groups I was talking about, which are the Club for Growth and the Senate Conservative Funded, Freedom Works, and the Tea Party Express, and Citizens United, Young Americans for Liberty. They're all in the fight, and these are the same groups that endorsed Ted Cruz. These are the same groups that endorsed Mike Lee, the same groups that endorsed Rand Paul. So they're all going to be involved in this. We're going to fight for the soul of our party. We're going to fight for the soul of our country, and we're going to have a good debate, and hopefully we win. And we can change some things around here. But, man, it's been incredible to see all the great endorsements come through.
You know, I did this show. I filled in here for Brian on Tuesday as well, and I talked a lot about the holding our candidates, who, by the way, work for us, about holding their feet to the fire regarding the platform, because it's really the only control that the grassroots of politics has over our candidates that we elect, is that they are supposed to stay true to the platform and, of course, ultimately the Constitution. Talk to us about that platform.
Yeah, well, first of all, the Constitution is the document that controls our government first and foremost, and our allegiance has to be to it. Mm-hmm. If we break outside of the confines or the restraints of that document, then it becomes illegitimate. So we're fighting to save the Constitution first and foremost, fighting for the platform, but fighting, first of all, to be a party of bold colors, not pastels, a party of principle, not surrender.
Oh, man, I love that. A bold colors, not pastels. I'm so with you on that, Senator. That is Senator Chris McDaniel. You can find him at McDaniel2014.com or on Twitter at CM4US Senate. Thanks for joining us, Senator. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless.
Stay with us. Your calls are next. 888-589-8840. You're listening to Focal Point with Brian Fisher only. I'm Dr. Gina, filling in today, and glad to be with you. It's you. You're up. Call right now. Your calls are next. Thanks for being with us.